Ladies and gentlemen, tonight we step into one of the most controversial, emotionally charged, and widely debated deaths of the modern era, a case that ignited global outrage, endless speculation, and deep mistrust in official explanations. This is Inside the Chilling Death of Kenneka Jenkins. Accident or something more? A story that begins as a night of teenage celebration and ends inside the locked freezer of a hotel, leaving behind a trail of haunting questions that still refuse to fade. Our story begins on the night of September 8, 2017, in Rosemont, Illinois, where 19-year-old Kenneka Jenkins attended a late-night hotel party at the Crowne Plaza Chicago O'Hare with a group of friends, a gathering meant to be carefree, loud, and celebratory, filled with music, laughter, alcohol, and youthful energy, as countless such parties often are, and by all accounts, Kenneka arrived in good spirits, laughing, dancing, and enjoying herself, unaware that this night would become her last. As the hours passed and alcohol continued to flow, witnesses later described Kenneka as increasingly intoxicated, slurring her speech, struggling to walk, and appearing disoriented, yet still surrounded by people she believed she could trust. A critical detail that would later fuel intense debate about responsibility and neglect. Sometime after 3 a.m., Kenneka was separated from her friends under circumstances that remain disturbingly unclear, with surveillance footage later showing her wandering alone through the vast, dimly lit hallways of the hotel, stumbling, leaning against walls, pressing elevator buttons without direction, and appearing visibly confused, footage that would later circulate online and shock millions of viewers around the world. During this time, Kenneka's friends realized she was missing and began searching for her, repeatedly asking hotel staff for help, requesting access to security footage, and calling her phone again and again, but according to their accounts, they were met with delays, dismissiveness, and a lack of urgency, a response that would later become one of the most criticized aspects of the case. As hours turned into an entire day, Kenneka's mother, Teresa Martin, was contacted and rushed to the hotel, immediately sensing that something was terribly wrong, pleading with staff and police to take the situation seriously, insisting that her daughter would never simply disappear without reason. While time slipped away with devastating consequences, nearly 24 hours after Kenneka was last seen alive, her body was discovered inside a walk-in freezer in a restricted kitchen area of the hotel, a location that raised immediate alarm because it was not a public space, not clearly marked, and not easily accessible to a disoriented guest, intensifying suspicions from the very first moment. Authorities quickly ruled Kenneka's death an accident, stating that she had wandered into the freezer while intoxicated, became trapped inside, and died from hypothermia, with toxicology reports later confirming a high blood alcohol level, a conclusion that was meant to close the case, but instead opened the floodgates to outrage, disbelief, and countless unanswered questions. Critics immediately pointed out glaring inconsistencies. Why was the freezer unlocked? Why was there no alarm? Why was the door not clearly marked? How did a teenager unfamiliar with the building navigate to a restricted kitchen area? And most importantly, why did hotel staff and police not locate her sooner when she was missing for nearly an entire day inside the same building? Surveillance footage became a central focus of public scrutiny, with many viewers questioning whether all footage had been released, whether critical moments were missing, and whether Kenneka was truly alone during her final moments. While online analysts slowed, enhanced, and dissected every frame, convinced that something more sinister was being hidden in plain sight, rumors and theories spread rapidly. Claims of foul play, organ trafficking, cover-ups, and negligence dominated social media, while others argued that alcohol, poor lighting, and lack of supervision tragically combined to produce an unthinkable accident, creating a deep divide between official explanations and public belief. Kenneka's mother became the voice of this doubt, refusing to accept the accidental death ruling, demanding accountability, filing lawsuits, and speaking publicly about her belief that her daughter's death involved negligence at best and something far darker at worst, transforming the case from a single tragedy into a symbol of broader concerns about safety, accountability, and how missing persons cases are handled. From a psychological perspective, the case forces us to confront uncomfortable realities: how vulnerable intoxicated individuals can become, how quickly chaos can escalate into catastrophe, and how systems meant to protect people sometimes fail in moments that matter most. Legally, the case highlighted serious questions about hotel security protocols, staff training, surveillance transparency, and emergency response, even as criminal charges were never filed, leaving many feeling that justice was never truly pursued. Years later, despite lawsuits, investigations, and official statements, the death of Kenneka Jenkins remains a deeply polarizing mystery, not because facts are entirely absent, but because trust has been irreparably broken, and once trust is lost, explanations, no matter how detailed, often feel insufficient. What makes this case so haunting is not only the image of a young woman wandering alone through empty hallways, but the chilling realization that she may have been just feet away from help while time slipped silently past her, unnoticed. As we step back from the cold walls of that hotel freezer and return to the present, we are left with a question that refuses to rest. Was Kenneka Jenkins the victim of a tragic accident fueled by alcohol and misjudgment, or was her death the result of negligence, failure, or something far more disturbing than authorities were willing to admit? Thank you for joining me as we examined one of the most unsettling cases of recent history, and as we close this story, remember this: some mysteries endure not because the truth is unknowable, but because the answers we're given never fully explain the fear, the loss, and the silence left behind. And in the case of Kenneka Jenkins, the chilling question remains unanswered, echoing through every hallway she walked alone that night. Accident, or something more?